Hello everybody, Big Jonas here. Happy Sunday to you all, December 6th. Hope everybody's having a great weekend. I want to do a little different video today. Most of the time I talk about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but I wanted to do a video specifically talking about mushroom stocks. Now we're not talking about portobello mushrooms or shiitake mushrooms. We're talking about the kind of mushrooms that maybe you tried in college, the psychedelic mushrooms, because there is a burgeoning industry that's happening, and as traders and investors, there's excellent opportunities that are potential to take advantage of. Now, before I go any further, I want you to tell this is just my thoughts and ideas. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence and research. I'm not telling you when to buy, I'm not telling you when to sell, but I want to give you a sense of the stocks that I'm looking at and what makes each one very unique, and potentially how we can capitalize on that moving forward. Remember, please follow me on Twitter at BigJonas. I put a tweet out about this yesterday and got very good response. So I'm actually very excited to add this to my repertoire. And it was really nice to see a lot of the responses were people that were very excited about it, talking about, you know, everything from PTSD and how it may help vets, the psilocybin aspect of it, which is the chemical of the mushroom, that actually is the thing that potentially could be very beneficial from a medical standpoint. This is my master list of shroom stocks here. We got a little over 20. Now, not all these stocks are created equal, and what you have to realize is that this is still a very young industry. This is a very burgeoning investment class of stocks. I wouldn't even call them investment class. They're all very speculative at the moment. But the potential for these is quite dynamic. And the reason I bring that up is because we're starting to see some of that moves, those dynamic moves, play out on the course of some of these. So for instance here, PSYC, also known as PSYC. We had a very nice week in MMEDF over the past several weeks here. And there's several other of these stocks here that are beginning to really show their strength. But as I said before, they're not all created equal. Some are tradable on the NASDAQ. Some are only tradable on the OTC, which we also know as penny stocks. And a lot of these OTC stocks are derivatives of a Canadian company that also is listed on the Canadian Stock Exchange for a different ticker. Same company, but different valuation in terms of one is valued in USD, other one is valued in Canadian dollars. You know, there's, as I mentioned, MMEDF, but the Canadian equivalent of that is MMED. And, you know, it has a different price point because it's on the Canadian Stock Exchange. When a stock ticker has an F at the end of it, that denotes a Canadian company. That's why they have all these Fs here, a lot of them here. So there's a couple stocks I want to focus on specifically. I'll start out with the ones that are basically either NASDAQ, OTC, but more or less not in the Canadian company VIs. And you can see a lot of them are having do have the F denomination there, showing that they have a Canadian equivalent that's active and currently trading on the Canadian Stock Exchange. The first one I wanted to mention is CMPS, Compass Pathways. This did an IPO here back in September. This is on the NASDAQ, okay? This is a big board, if you will. Stock, and what's so interesting about this is after a couple months here of this nice consolidation, you know, whether it's a channel or a flag, you can call it, we were able to find that middle channel support and break out, and we're in this breakout situation here while we continue to consolidate. Now, this is still very young in this overall stocks, you know, history here. Not a lot of data to go on. We can see we have a very strong on-balance volume. We have a little bit of a bear divergence here on our RSI, and all of our other oscillators are still very young, you know, in their overall life cycle here. And that's why a lot of these are still, you know, speculative. These are very high risk, potentially very high reward, but overall we are in the early stages of this. A couple of the ones I wanted to focus on, PSYC. This was one, this is an OTC stock. As you can see, kind of has a really choppy past, if you will. But all of a sudden, it's starting to get some really nice momentum here. And we're beginning to see that in our volume profile and, of course, overall price history here. And the fact that we're able to, break out of this zone here around the 0.011 area. Again, this is another stock that is very speculative. It's an OTC stock, so if you're not familiar with trading OTC stocks, they're very volatile, kind of similar to altcoins, if you will. But the potential is there for great moves, especially because of the low float aspect of some of these and just the overall interest they have in this market here. People want to get in early because they feel that there's potential on these. So there's just a few examples here of some. Other one is Silo, SILO. Again, still very early here. This is an OTC stock. Okay, but as you can see, after years here of just kind of meaningless chop in price action, we're starting to see very notable volume coming in, and the shape of a nice chart beginning to take shape here if we're able to break above this 0.48 to 50 area here. Again, super early in this, you can tell because of the choppiness here, but that's the volume that's very interesting. We're starting to see volume, we're starting to see money flow, and that's basically transferring to a lot of these stocks. So a couple ones I wanted to discuss specifically. MMEDF. I've been on this one for months. I actually tweeted about this back here in March, and I was an investor in it. I had I owned shares in this through most of the summer. I was kind of not sure what was going to happen here. We weren't really doing anything. We weren't breaking out or anything. Our volume was consistent but kind of stagnant. And then all of a sudden, back here in the end of September, we really started to get the volume starting to come in. And to me, this was the first sign that something very special was basically happening here. Now, you can see the rip that this stock took, from our lows of September. This has almost been a 400% or 500% move in such a very short amount of time. Now, arguably, you could say, well, this is incredibly overbought. We're basically less than 2 months, and the stock is up almost 500%. Kind of reminds you of an altcoin, right? So we do want to keep this in mind. We don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. We also have a gap in the price action on the daily at the 125 area here. But we have to agree that we have to at least see the fact that we have some really nice consolidation here that's been churning over the past week or so in this flagging pattern with a very nice breakout of that flag pattern on Friday's price action. So are we overbought? I believe we are. Is the ideal entry much lower? I believe it is. Is there a possibility we can get back under a dollar? Sure, it's possible. But for me, this is one of those longer term holds, longer term investments where I will scale out profits if I feel we are overbought, especially on a lower time frame situation. But overall, the potential for this stock, now that we are in clear blue sky breakout territories, is as high as it could possibly go. I don't know how high it can go. I don't know how low we have to go first to then go high. Ideally, what we want to be doing here is building a base. We want to build a base of support, a longer base of support. But we're seeing, a strong OBV. We're seeing a really strong RSI. All of our indicators are showing there's money flowing into it. But this is an example of one of these stocks that has had a tremendous run over the past couple months, less than a few months, okay? And I think people were seeing this over the past few months and saying, okay, what else is in this play? What else is in this industry? I've been trading wheat stocks since 2013, and now that we're 7 years displaced from that, I mean, there's over 100, let's just call over 100 of tradable marijuana stocks, whether it's OTC, big boards, and such. But there's only like 20 or so of the psychedelic mushroom stocks that are really out there. And then of those 20, there's a very good possibility that some, they just won't make it, right? They just won't materialize to anything. But of those 20, there's probably a few hidden gems that could be tremendous in terms of their future valuations. I want to bring up a marijuana company here called CGC. You may be familiar with it. But did you know that CGC, which is, on the NASDAQ here, it actually started its life on the OTC. And on the OTC, it actually started its life on the gray market. If you're not familiar with what the gray market is, it's kind of where a lot of really, really bad OTC stocks go to either die or be put in a timeout. But it can also be a vehicle for stocks that want to come on the market to basically inhabit a shell, a ticker, and use that to eventually get onto a real exchange. CGC was under, was $1. It was less than that, I actually think, on when it was in the gray market. It had a different name. It had a different ticker, and by gray market you don't get your standard bid and ask price. It's just kind of, there's no market maker, so you're putting in buy orders based on kind of what the price is being, or what these orders are being filled at. Sometimes you'll fill, sometimes you don't. But the people that took that risk on a gray market, stock investment back in 2015 and 2016, when this did eventually uplist, from OTC to the NASDAQ, a tremendous run, it actually did have, and we're looking at almost a 3,000% climb here from the lows to the current top. Now, of course, with all these marijuana stocks, volatility is nuts. You can go up 3,000% and you can do a retracement. That is basically 80% plus of that overall move there, and still have, a very nice overall chart overall. So the reason I'm bringing up this specific marijuana stock is this is an example of what potentially could happen with some of these mushroom stocks over the next few years. Remember, we've got to think longer term here. But as you can see, when the volume started to really come into this thing, this became a much more meaningful company to actually, trade with. Investments and how long you actually hold this is a completely other thing. If you were able to purchase under $5 and scale up most of your investment over $50, that was a heck of a trade there. But the reason I bring this up is because this could be a blueprint, if you will, for where some of these stocks that are very early in their life could be going. We could be just at the little bit early stages of an MMEDF or SUF. Couple other ones I wanted to focus on. LKYSF, otherwise known as NUMI. Now, NUMI, N-U-M-I, on the Canadian Stock Exchange. There it is there. It's been, as you can see, trading for some time as a ticker, all right, but no real major interest. And then you can see around May of this year, you started to get some accumulation happening. And that accumulation was trying to find price discovery, and it found it around 20 cents. And now the buying really has been stepping up over the past several weeks, and sure enough, you can see that. Now, again, this is NUMI. This is what it looks like on the Canadian exchange. This is what it looks like on the US OTC exchange. Okay, different price point, as you can see, because it's US dollars, but kind of a similar chart here. We have something that's kind of been out in no man's land. You started to get the accumulation as it was searching for price discovery. It was able to find its floor at around 10 cents, and then the volume started kicking in, and the past 2 weeks here is volume we cannot ignore. This is incredible volume here, and money is beginning to flow into this sector. I'm going to put a list of all these stocks up on my YouTube page, showing what's going on here as well. I'll be tweeting about them in perpetuity over the next few weeks here. But I'm going to kind of run down all these here. These are, again, as I've been stressing, still very early. Now, some of these have a lot more price history than other ones here. But as you can see, something very different about the most recent cluster of volume is very similar to, you know, all these stocks that I'm going to be talking about here. This is another one here, AGEEF. Look at the volume coming in here. We're accumulating. We are finding a price discovery here. We have a floor being set because of our bounce at around, you know, 2 cents here, and we're slowly beginning to find stability and rise. But what's so important to me on this chart here is the volume and what that's basically being created on. We do have a nice bottom bounce here of our on balance volume as well. Remember, these are vehicles. These stocks are vehicles to an industry. Okay, so maybe it doesn't have the name, you know, mushroom or psilocybin or something in the name of the stock. Maybe some of the history of it talks about, you know, mining or some other industry that has nothing to do with it. But these are shell companies and a on-ramp, if you will, for these potential future mushroom stock, mushroom-based companies to get investors in a publicly traded aspect. Other one here, CLXPF. Again, super early in its life cycle. We can see we've only been out for a couple weeks here. Okay, but what's very clear is we have this recent volume here starting to perk up. Now, I'm not saying, you know, you need to chase all these. I'm not saying that you need to have a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Some of these will not work. Some of these are potentially right now even way overbought and need time to kind of play out. This is an example of one of the gray market stocks. I wanted to CLXPF. So we go to otcmarkets.com. See here, it says right here, gray market. There's no bid, there's no ask, right? It's just basically you see what the last price is, and then you can put I call it a bid, but you can basically put in an offer in to see if you can basically be filled at that price. Now, a lot of these stocks have very low floats, right? This one only has about 14 million shares out there. But the reason I'm pointing out these gray markets is that just like CGC did with marijuana stocks, even though it's on a gray market right now, it doesn't mean it will spend its whole life there. And the ideal path for that is to get from gray market to back on the OTC, you know, being a pink or a pink current, and then maybe even upgrade to that to the QB or the QX, which is a higher tier of OTC, and then obviously eventually onto the NASDAQ. So there's another example of that. I mentioned earlier CMPS. This is the main played NASDAQ stock. Again, high risk, high reward. You know, this was at $32 about a month and a half ago, and now we're over $52 here. We closed a little bit on the bearish side on Friday there, but as you can see, you know, overall holding an area of support, which was recent resistance, you know. So ideal look for this here is to kind of hold that wick there at 47 and use that as a new base and continue to build up again. As you can see, this is a very young stock, like a lot of these actually always are. Another one here, Dcnpf, again, early in its life cycle, minimal price history. You know, you can't chart it, you can't, use the Bollinger Bands or anything, but what we can see is the volume. And the volume is coming into these, and this is important. Okay, this is still super early, and if we continue to see volume bars like this heading into December and into 2021, we're going to see stocks like these, you know, begin to kind of really establish themselves. I don't have a price target, you know, I don't have, you know, what the potential is. Clearly there was such limited volume along the way here, but we have a line of support that's rising. We have higher lows and we have higher highs. We want to keep this going, and this is still a very early accumulation stage, and we can see that still playing out as we speak. ENTBF, Other one here, super early, super young in its history here. Not much going on here, but again, we are seeing the volume begin to come in. Okay, there's not a chart here. I can't chart this chart because there's no real price history here. I don't care, you know, where my EMAs are and my, you know, my MAs are. There's not a lot of history. This is literally just you know, a lotto pick still, if you will, because of where we are. I can't say that 63 cents for this one is a good bargain, you know, based on where it is, but we can do some research on it, right? So again, ENTBF, we can go to OTC, ENTBF. It's a pink current, so that's good. Okay, we can go to company profile. We can see that, see, again, we don't have any very limited information on these you know, tickers here. They're so limited early, and that's why this is still kind of the Wild West, if you will, of mushroom stock investments very early in the stage here, you know. Other ones have a lot more history, okay? But again, this is an example when we can keep watching our volume profile and see, is there money continuing to flow into this one? FAMI, F-A-M-I. This one is kind of unique. This one has a lot of history here. This is not necessarily a psychedelic mushroom stock. This is an actual mushroom stock. This is like portobellos and satake's. It's a Chinese company. They make oh, it's on NASDAQ, so it wouldn't be here. You know, they actually sell real mushrooms. But the reason I have it on my list and the reason I bring it up is it could so easily transition itself and become a psychedelic mushroom company. And because it's already on the NASDAQ, already has some decent, you know, chart history here, and overall it's kind of a, you know, nice chart here as it is. You know, this is something that I will continue to keep an eye on, because if they were to transition in some sort of a PR press release to the psilocybin stock rush here, this is positioned perfectly for this industry because it's already a mushroom stock. It's a Chinese mushroom stock, and those two things right now are very hot. So even though this is not specifically a psychedelic mushroom stock, this is definitely one I think you want to keep an eye on. Here's another one here, Ftrpf. Let's check it out. Ftrpf. Okay, field trip health, like tripping, right? Tripping balls, that's something you say when you're doing mushrooms. Again, it's a name, it has the name, right? It is gray market, again, so it's one of those things that has very limited information. It's kind of a hard thing to trade, but there it is, description. Psychedelic therapies that bring you to life, whatever that means. 37 million shares outstanding here with a market cap of $126 million. I've seen, you know, marijuana companies with tremendous debt and no real business acumen have, you know, $500 million to $1 billion plus in market cap. So even though we're still very early in this, and once again, what are we seeing? What is tying all these stocks together? It's the volume. It's the volume profile. And look at this volume coming in through November. Okay, look at the October volume and look at the November volume. Okay, people are looking at this, they are acquiring it. Okay, they don't know where the valuation is. We don't have market makers on this one. There's no bid or ask. But what we can see is what people are just willing to pay, you know, for this particular thing here. And again, this is another example of there's a Canadian equivalent company out there, you know. Excuse me. Moving right along here, GTSIF. Okay, now this is one that has a little bit more information. Okay, a little more history here. Nice little daisy chaining. But what stands out? Oh, look at this. Look at these giant volume, right? The past couple weeks, right? And now we start to see some nice breaking out momentum here. So we're going to mark a current top at around 10 cents. We're at around 8 cents here. But as you can see, above 10 cents, blue sky, right? Blue sky breakout. This is called Loeb Sciences, GTSIF. GTSIF. Oops. Okay, it's pink. Pink current, which is good. And again, they talk about, you know, some are in cannabis, some are basically diversifying their cannabis businesses to the mushroom and psilocybin thing. That's again, you know, our floats the 35 million, outstanding shares 165 million, and a market cap of only $13 million. Okay, and you know, Loeb Sciences, it's a cool name, it works. HAVLF. Okay, again, this is the daily. This is another example of something that's super early in its life cycle. It does have a Canadian equivalent, but again, on the daily chart, what's really standing out here, like all other ones here, is the volume. Look at our weekly chart. This is our most highest volume week, and what kind of a candle did we put in here? A very nice looking doji, which can be a reversal candle from the current trend. I shouldn't say it's a doji. I should just say it's a long-wicked spinner, if you will, because Cheds would get on me on that. But there's something very interesting here. We're seeing the volume, okay? But again, we're super duper early in this. I can't tell you if 63 cents is a good valuation for this, but what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to keep my eyes on the volume and seeing where this actually can transfer. LIBFF, again, look at that guy there. Whoa, look at that volume there. Okay, we kind of zoom out here. Okay, this one has a lot more history going all the way back here. You can also see it actually had a very nice pump in 2017, 2018. Went from 33 cents all the way from $3. That is what we call a 10-bagger in the industry. You know, a little 1,000%er right there. Penny pump, and you got in. And it's got kind of a nice looking chart to it, right? We got this kind of daisy chain. And we're hitting this current resistance right here, around 25 cents. We can see our OBV is starting to scream up here. This is accumulation. People are accumulating this. The very nice look to the chart. And presumably, we're still very early in this. I already talked about NUMI there. LMLLF. Okay. Again, super early. Okay. Not a lot of history, not a lot of price action. Can't really chart it. Okay. But I do like the volume, especially the past couple weeks here. Okay. Still super early in this one, but it's part of the group. And we're going to see if we can get some resistance above this 3 or 4 cents area here in the coming weeks. And that's kind of an area where we want to keep an eye on. MCURF, again, great looking volume. Okay, there's our volume. This was a nothing chart, you know, just a few weeks ago. And now we're seeing some really nice volume coming in. These are all buys. MCURF, let's check it out. MCURF. Okay, this is QB. That's a higher tier on the OTC. It basically means it has more updated financials, and presumably it's a better potentially investment vehicle. You know, 53 million outstanding shares. The float's 42, and the market cap's only $28 million. Okay, and they talk about, you know, commercializing products to ease suffering, enhance mental health. This is all about mental wellness. As you can see, they're all up in Canada. This one's in BC. Another example here of accumulation volume with no chart like this. Like we're approaching, if you will, you know, an area of blue sky breakout, because there's no real price history here, and that's fine. And I hope I'm trying to get across to you that these are opportunities that are still extremely early, extremely volatile, extremely risky. But over the next days and weeks and months, what we'll kind of be coming back to is looking at these charts and seeing if we can find a real growth stability of them as they're moving higher. So not much to kind of chew on this one, except the fact the volume's very intriguing, and anything above 62 cents here, you know, the sky's the limit. We talked about MMEDF earlier in the day. This is still one that's really becoming a leader in the overall industry right now in terms of the chart. In my opinion, it's an excellent looking chart. It's overbought. I remember I've been in this one early. I do hold shares of this. And I've been, even though I believe in it, I take profit on the way. You know, I've been scaling out this move here because, let's face it, a 500% move in under 2 days and under 2 months, that's a big move. The market, I want to see the market digest this. Now, I'm not saying we can't go to 2 or 250 first, right? This is still a beautiful setup here, but we know we have the gap down here at $1.25. We know we have a much more meaningful accumulation zone here between 80 cents and $1. And if we do end up getting back here at some time, you know, like this, and then like something like this, I would be looking to reaccumulate substantially, potentially in this area if I get that opportunity to do so. So if you missed this one, personally, I don't know if I would be chasing it. Okay, it's already up so much. If you weren't able to either acquire when you were in this flat consolidation or some here around $1, just be patient with it. I'm waiting for a lower price to re-add to my overall accumulation there. MYCOF, MYCOF, another one here that has a lot of history, which I do like. This one actually has, let's see how far back we can go here. Right, a lot of history here. Okay, this company was probably many different things. As you can see, our examples here of when it went from $1.72 up to $14. Okay, now different share structures happen here. You can't quantify it did this then, therefore it can do this now. They probably diluted a ton over the years here, probably a lot more shares in the overall float. Okay, but we can't argue with the chart. We can't argue with the volume over the past few weeks here, and we can't argue with the fact that we have this lower area that we're now holding it as resistance, as now support. So we have strong support at 14 cents, okay, and we have a little bit of a rising consolidative channel here. It's very interesting. You can also see that we've broken out of this resistance here, okay, and kind of fluttering here. Keep an eye on the volume, keep an eye on the chart, because this one here has a very nice look to it that could potentially, you know, bring us, you know, to a much higher valuation. And we're going to watch our on-balance volume, which is showing the reaccumulation of this one in the last few weeks here. NTTCF, just got a few more here to go over here. Again, similar story here. Early on in this one, not really seeing the volume we've seen on a lot of other ones here. Okay, a little consolidation here, not much going on in the overall chart. So we'll keep an eye on this one here. We do have our resistance around 80 cents. Okay, and as long as we're able to kind of maintain you know, this overall area of support between 68 to 80 cents here, this could be a nice accumulation zone here. Again, this one stands out differently in the fact that we're not really seeing the volume that we have seen in some of the other ones here. Talking about PSYC earlier on there, this is still one of the hottest OTC plays right now. Again, high risk, high reward. Remember, we are already, you know, a couple 100% off the lows here. You know, we got as high as 260. Consolidated down to about the 150s, and now we closed a little bit around 2 cents on Friday's price action here. But again, it's that volume that stands out. And look at this consolidation here. I'd love to see this go sideways for the next few days or even weeks, and allow this to kind of build a nice base here for the eventual blast off. But this was a hot one here. This could really begin to take off quickly into next week's price action if we get to see that a continuation of buy pressure. Rvvtf, I think this is an important one to keep an eye on here. This is a slower mover. We're not seeing the big volume that we had seen and some of the other ones here that really stands out here. I did want to bring up the Canadian equivalent, RVV. Okay, it's actually a nice looking chart here in November. This kind of W bottom here, the breakthrough, and now we're hitting this resistance here. So we can see that the Canadian equivalent has a little more chart history, a little cleaner look to it. But again, this is a chart that is most recently in this uptrend. Okay, we want to see if we can kind of continue to hold this kind of channel here, if you will, of that uptrend. And I love the on-balance volume on this thing. You know, it looked like crap for a while, and then we got this nice W here, and now we're really shooting up. So this is being acquired, this is being accumulated at the 23-cent price level. And again, there's not a lot of history here to go back on and say what would be a break of blue sky and whatever. Still super early, but we want to keep an eye on this channel and see if it continues to hold. TRUFF, another example here of kind of a chart with minimal history, but once again, there's that volume. Okay, that volume is just standing out. That's saying this is being accumulated, this is being acquired at these price levels, and over the next coming weeks you want to see this chart begin to stabilize itself, find its footing. We can see that, you know, looks like 7 cents now is a good area of support as we're ranging, and if we can break above our current resistance around 10 cents, another example of a blue sky. WUHN General Group, this is an OTC. Another thing I want to mention is, depending upon which broker you use, you know, Fidelity, E-Trade, TD Ameritrade, IB, some will let you purchase these stocks and some will not. I know that WUHN has limited information on OTC, WUHN, and because it's got the stop sign on it, some exchanges won't allow you to buy it. Others will allow you to buy it, and that's just how it is. So for instance, I know this one you can't buy on Fidelity, but you can buy it on E-Trade. Hopefully once they update their fins, then this will be from a pink no to a pink current, and you'll get more money flow, you'll get more interest in this. Otherwise, right now, very interesting chart here. Look at this really nice, you know, channel of accumulation, if you will. Okay, great looking on balance volume, some of the best looking OBVs we've actually seen here. You look at that accumulation there. Once we're able to break out of this zone here, this thing can really pack a punch, and I just love the volume. The volume is sticking out. CPIVF, okay, again, another one there that's super young, super early, okay, but we're starting to kind of wrap around here in our, right, we're starting to, we've clearly assigned a base around 15, 16 cents, and we're slowly moving up. We want to continue to watch this. This is still very early, but we want to see if we get the volume spikes and that a continuation there. Other one here, kind of EVAHF. Again, these are just super young into the overall process here. Don't have the volume we've seen on other ones here. We have a major resistance here. We know where our support is. Okay, we're not seeing the volume yet. Okay, so we're kind of keep an eye on this one. This one is still very early. We're going to see if we can get the volume profile and then see if this channel of accumulation can actually break out. Let's got a few more here before I wrap it up. Again, guys, appreciate you hanging out with me today. This is a special video dedicated exclusively to mushroom stocks, psilocybin, psychedelic mushroom stocks, PEMTF. Again, early on here, we have a clean area of accumulation, and we have some nice volume pumps here over the past couple days. Okay, we're not really seeing that play out too much here in our OBV or other indicators here. Still super early. Got a long way to go with this one here, but we're going to keep an eye on this one here. And with volume and a break of this 0.0785 area here, it could be some excitingness here. Lots of room up to really the next meaningful resistance, right? Which is like, I don't know, right here, 12 cents. So from where we currently are now to where the next meaningful resistance, over 160% move just to get up there. So these have that potential with the right volume and with the right money flow. A couple more here. Again, super young. What we got? Where this is about a week old. Okay, but we're getting volume coming in here. A PHRRF. It's pink current. That's good. But again, not a lot of information here to go off of. And still very, very young in this little stock's life. Can't really do any charting on it. I'll just put this line right here, which is our resistance, and this line up here, which is our support. And we'll be watching this one over the days and weeks ahead and months ahead and seeing if we get the volume continuation and begin to build a base and actually a legitimate chart here. This is SILO, S-I-L-O. This is an OTC stock. Again, super early, super young, but there's the volume that we were talking about, and now we're over this line, or we're kind of playing with this line here. Anything over 48 cents here is very interesting. And last one here, VEGGF. Okay, other example here of we're still kind of trickling around here, We do have an area of support, we do have an area of resistance, and we do have our volume cluster that we're going to be watching. Still don't see it showing up too much here on our on-balance volume. But again, these are very young in their life cycles. So I wanted to wrap up. I wanted to refer back to CGC here because a lot of the tickers that I was just talking about that have limited price history, some are on the gray markets on the OTC. CGC started its life this is the exact same way. You know, this CGC price history here in 2015, 2016, this was gray market, OTC, a different name, okay, ticker name, and through just time and patience, it became legit. It became an OTC pink, and then maybe QB, I don't remember, but then it went to uplist to NASDAQ, and the rest is history. I'm not saying every ticker I just described is going to do a move just like this, but this is an example historically of a new sector. This was marijuana, and now we're talking about mushrooms. That was very young, that if you were patient and smart about your investment here, you can see how tremendous that this move was, and where the whole industry really began to take off there in this move. We are still extremely young in this. We only have, as I said, basically one ticker, CMPS on the NASDAQ, and several other here that are on the OTC in various representations. Many of them do have Canadian equivalencies, and those press releases we will see will push a lot of these stocks. Other thing I want to say is on Thanksgiving, when there was no markets on the US, a lot of these Canadian tickers were open because the market was open on that Thursday in Canada, and we could see the price action of these tickers and how they were playing on Thursday, and then how that related to price action in the US on Friday when they actually opened up, and they were very similar. We had a gap up, not a gap up, but we were very strong early on, followed by a slow fade in the day. So you can keep an eye on some of the Canadian equivalents. The strength of those will continue to reciprocate through these OTC stocks. But remember, these are high risk, these are high reward, these are limited valuations, and these are limited information. These are smaller money flows than you're expected, and then probably you're used to if you're trading on NASDAQs. A lot of these are extremely illiquid, okay? But we're talking about this on the ground floor, on the very early stages, what I believe is a very interesting and exciting new industry here. And if we can use the marijuana stocks as kind of a primer, as sort of an idea about what the potential is here, then let's just say this is going to be a very exciting and dynamic time. I believe we are still early. Again, if you missed a lot of these big moves here, best be patient, don't chase. Some of these are overbought, in my opinion. Some of these haven't even begun yet. I do have positions in many of these. They are smaller than, some are smaller, some are a little bit larger. If I'm able to take out profit on these on a bigger move, I will do so, even though I have a longer term perspective in my head. Guys, I hope you learned something on this video here. Again, this is not financial advice. It's just some of my thoughts and ideas. I really appreciate your support. Please give me that thumbs up button if you enjoy my content. Definitely follow me on Twitter at BigChonis. These psychedelic mushrooms are an exciting field of study that could potentially help people, and that's kind of what this is all about. So very exciting times these are. Until next time, trade safe. We'll talk to you guys real soon. I'll be doing mushroom videos probably once a week just to kind of recap the week's price history, and there'll probably be a lot of new tickers coming on, so when I'm able to find those, I will absolutely include those in my master shrooms list. Until next time, have a great Sunday. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.